things about your starter. Again, don't use bleach flour if just don't. It'll kill the natural bacteria in there. Warm water is best. Don't want to do hot. You don't want to cook it, but warm water will be nice. I'm trying to think. People will discard. So the only reason you discard is because replenishing like the flour and water is good to keep it really active. Because so basically when you feed it, you'll notice that like right now, it's a little bit thick. And so like it's hungry, it wants a little bit of food, it wants some water. So I'll feed it and it'll rise and you'll kind of see that it'll get bubbly, it'll get really loose and runny. And so discarding is because when you feed it, let's say I feed it right now and it rises up to here and I don't take anything out and I feed it again tomorrow, it rises up to here. I feed it again the next day and then it'll overflow. So discarding is just so basically you don't like bust out of your jar every day.
Okay. It's really just that you're creating it faster than you're using it. And so you have to cut it back so that you can continue to grow it. Because you can't stop the growing process. Is that what it is?
So you can pause it. So like if I fed this right now and I didn't want to, if I fed it for whatever reason, didn't want to use it, I could put it in the fridge and I could slow it down. It would still be active because it's still fed. Probably be active for like a day or two. If I was like, okay, I'm gonna go on vacation for 3 weeks. I don't wanna bake, obviously. I'd put it in the fridge with a tight lid on it and it would be fine. It might be like dormant, so you'd have to feed it maybe once or twice to get it back to active. But I could feed this right now if I wanted to, and it would be active. This is in my fridge for probably 2 months. It's the same thing.
Okay.
Just one's active and one is dormant.
Okay.
People say a couple weeks. My friend had hers for 3 months in her fridge. I mean, as long as it's tight. I've been working on this for a while. You can see like it's kind of crusty because I have it tight. But yeah, it's really thick.
Right.
Yeah.
So it needs to be fed a lot to get it unthick, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically. It's starved right now.
So when you started, like if we were to go home, we would take one of these, or how many of these?
Yep, you take one bag of that and then you would essentially...
A whole bag?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You would pour a little bit of hot water in it, try to dissolve it as much as you can, or like mix it up. And then whatever you get with the water, so like let's say you put that in a jar, put it in a jar and it was dissolved, it got to like a thicker mixture, you would feed it equal parts flour and more water for what you have once that's mixed. If that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
50-50.
Yeah.
It's 50-50 to match this. So if this ended up with a cup of water, we would do a cup of that and a cup of water. Okay.
Yeah. And you don't need much starter. So like I've gotten this jar down to the point where like it's just the stuff on the sides that I need to like scrape down. That's fine. You don't need much at all.
But you need all of this to make the starter versus just part of it.
You can use as much as you want. That's more so just like I just threw stuff in a bag. You can use as much as you want. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
and yes, I would love written directions.
Yeah, for sure. No problem.
I'm so lost. So you put a cup of warm water, you mix it till it dissolves, then you put a cup of warm water and a cup of flour. Is that too much water?
Yeah, I wouldn't use a cup for this. So I would put this in a jar. I'd add a little bit of water and like a tiny little bit as you're stirring it to just get it to like a pancake batter consistency is what I like to go for. Because I don't use like a lot of measurements. So pancake batter is like my ideal. So I would do that, a little bit of water, and then once you have it to a texture that you really like, then you could feed it. So you could add like the half cup, the cup of flour, half cup of water, whatever you want to do that way. Depending on the size of your jar, how much starter you want.
Okay.
All that good stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So discard. So yeah, so the only reason we discard really is to not have an oversupply of starter, and just because like I said, like moving things around keeps the starter nice and active. So discard, you can have recipes. Like I make tortillas out of this, muffins, pancakes.
Chris asked me whether or not I could do. So that's basically dough ready to go.
Yeah, So
you don't mix with that. That is all you use for the tortilla, or do you put dough in there with it?
I use flour.
Flour.
Starter. So this is
flour with the discard to make a tortilla. Okay.
Or like with pancakes, you can use like a little bit of like bananas, some discard, cinnamon. Yeah. And it's just flour and water, so it's not anything super crazy. But discard's nice because you can use it for stuff. And so like if you don't want to wait, a day or two for your dough to rise, you can use discard right away. I haven't used discard for bread. I think you can, but I like to use active starter, so I'm not really sure how that would work.
And then you use, I think, discard for English muffins, don't you?
You can, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of recipes, if they call for discard, they might have you add yeast, and I don't have yeast. I don't want to use yeast. So that's the only thing that I look out for.
Okay.
So you can use discard, but they might ask for yeast. So before you start.
And why would you not want to use yeast other than putting yeast in your body?
I don't ever have it on hand, and like
Okay.
I don't have a need, and I'm like, well, I have active yeast that I made here, so
Yeah. Okay.
there's no point in like buying
Now,
commercial
did you
yeast.
start with regular yeast to make this originally, way
just-
back when?
Just flour and water.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it took about maybe 3 weeks or so to become active, ready to bake with.
Oh, okay.
But you just feed it every day, discard it, feed it, and
That's it. So the whole you need yeast is not true with sourdough.
I've never used yeast.
So
Okay.
I don't even know how to use it, to be honest.
Okay, cool.
I looked online, and this lady said you have to feed it every 12 hours. So she feeds it every morning and every night. Like,
That's crazy.
yeah,
And
I'm
she's
going,
like, yeah, I'm going, there's no way. You want to probably feed it once a day at the most.
I feed it once a day, usually at night, because it'll be ready to in the next day to like make
Work
some
with
dough with it or something. I've let this go probably 2 days on my counter without feeding it, just because I've been lazy. But no, I've never fed it that often. I can see if you're maybe like making a big batch like for a bakery, but just like home baking, you don't need to have that much
You
starter.
produce way too much starter.
Yeah.
okay, how much starter do you need for a loaf of bread?
A third a cup.
A third a cup.
Mhm.
So when you do your big bake off for the weekend, like that's not enough starter for you right there, right?
Mm-mm.
That's only like 2 or 3 loaves right
Mhm,
there.
mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, so I might
So you start
add more flour and
really
water.
working.
Yeah. So I might feed it more in order to have more. Otherwise, I also might split this into like 2 jars and feed both so I can have double. Yeah, it just depends on how many loaves I want to make.
And
But
this is usually not covered?
yeah, it is covered with
Oh.
just not don't want it to be airtight so any like bad gases can escape or else it'll get moldy and gross.
Okay.
But just something
Okay.
that can rest on top so nothing can
Would
get in.
the bread covers work too? You could put that on there as well? Okay.
Yep.
Because I use those. I have like a little set that I use.
Yeah, like for the jars, when I was starting, I used this. I would just rest this on top.
Uh-huh.
That's fine. And then when I put it in the fridge,
Yeah.
seal it up.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, you can. So I discard. I don't discard if I'm making bread because that essentially is discarding. But if I'm like feeding it and then I end up like not using it for something, I'll discard just to keep it manageable. And again, I don't measure.
So that lady is just like mass producing her stuff, and
That's
then
a
she's
lot.
having all. And she's telling me she's like, and she has to discard it, and I'm like, that's
She
because
says
she's making too
she
much.
discards a third of. She only keeps a third of it and discards the rest. I'm like, wow, like
That's a lot of starter.
Because she's just feeding it too
Yeah.
much.
Maybe she uses a lot of discard recipes, or
She does.
Maybe
I
she
guess.
sells
I don't know.
her-
It's just some person on the internet. I was just googling to try and figure out how much I didn't know. So
if
okay,
she sells her starter, maybe that would be good because then she can dehydrate a lot of it and then sell it. I don't know.
Okay.
That's a lot of starter though.
okay. So right now we're gonna feed this.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So.
So we made our slurry,
Mm-hmm.
and then we added a little bit of water, a little bit of flour. We let it sit overnight, and now we're feeding. Okay.
Okay. So you can kind of see how much is in there. I don't have a measurement obviously, but you can kind of see it's this thick.
cup.
So I like to do heavy on the flour just because that thick pancake mixture, that's worked for me. Extra flour just means extra food for your starter. So it tends to rise consistently from me doing that way. So I just like to feed it at least 1 to 1. So as much starter as I have is
So if it's to here, you're gonna want to go to here.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But I can do smaller, like I can have a smaller jar, a
Yes.
starter, so that I'm not producing it faster than I can eat it.
Yes, exactly. So then I'll do that 1 to 1, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of warm water. Okay, so I'll just do a little bit at a time, and I'll kind of stir it in. The goal is to incorporate all the flour while keeping a thick batter consistency.
Camera.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Because I'm gonna be having to watch this a few times.
Okay, so we put the flour in to match the level of the starter.
Yep.
And now we're slowly incorporating
Warm
warm water
Mm-hmm.
until it's thick.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever done a how-to video?
On TikTok, I'll post like short how-tos, but that's about it.
I'm not on TikTok.
There's a lot of like, I don't know, TikTok is funny because everyone is a professional, you know, and so you get a lot of opinions that it's bread, you know, it doesn't need to be complicated.
Everybody does its own thing.
Yeah, exactly. Depends on your temperature, your humidity, what kind of flour you're using. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm gonna have it a little bit thick, but like I would be okay with that if need be.
Now, say once you've like mixed this up before it even rises overnight, you could potentially take some of that out and put it in another jar so that you could have double starter going.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. So I have jars for you guys. So I'll take some of this out so then you can watch it rise.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that's the texture that I like. It's a thick pancake batter.
It's even thicker than a pancake, probably.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Chunky.
Yep, and I'll just move my painter's tape to kind of have an idea of where
Your
it
level
started. Yep.
Of course, that's going to change if you take some of that out of there.
That's true. Okay.
Because we're messing up your groove.
That's okay. No, this is perfect. So yeah, so that's all you do to feed it. And then you let it sit in some humidity or, you know, in some warmth. I'll put this in my oven probably with the oven light on. It'll probably be doubled.
Oh, it's 11:11.
Later this evening, yeah.
So if you had a sunny window, you could even leave it in a sunny window.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In the winter, I have a space heater in that corner, so I put it on the chair next to my space heater, and it works just fine.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Okay, I'll wipe that off. I will say one thing is to scrape down your sides as much as possible.
Okay.
Or like wipe down the edges just so you don't get mold. Because
Okay.
once you have mold, it's dead. But you might notice if you put it in the fridge for a while, you might get like a liquid on top. What is it? Hooch. Just like the alcohol. And that's fine. You can pour it off. You can stir it in. You might taste it if you stir it in. So I've had it happen to me before, and I just pour off as much as I can, stir the rest in. It's fine. You might get what is it called? Calms yeast. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but it'll look like little microorganisms on top. Also fine. You can scrape it off, feed it. It's good to go. The only thing that will kill it for sure is mold.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'll spread some starter on a baking sheet with like parchment paper and just let it sit out for like a day or two, and it'll completely dry. You can just flake it off. I'll show you mine.
And then do you so does it get to stay in the pantry?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's a safe way to always have backup starter.
Yes.
Because
Mm-hmm.
that's what we want to do, because we have a feeling we're going
Yeah,
to kill ours.
I have so much.
Just in case we kill it.
Yes. Well, I can give it to you now because you always want a backpack. I've learned the hard way to have a backpack.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yes,
oh
of
gosh.
course.
So excited.
Yeah,
I'm
good.
so excited.